Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pacific Northwest Opportunities Fund Committee's first webinar, also called the PNWOF. The Pacific Northwest Opportunities Fund is an internal grant opportunity for all key clubs throughout the Pacific Northwest District to pursue high-impact service. Today, you'll have the opportunity to learn more about how to apply for the grant, get a closer look at previous PNWOF recipient projects, and ask any questions that you may have through our open floor Q&A. My name is Haley Smith, and I am serving as the 2021 to 2022 District Treasurer. As District Treasurer, it is my responsibility to chair the PNWOF Committee and take the lead in preparing, promoting, and judging applications for the grant. Joining me on the committee, we have Abigail Boador, the Lieutenant Governor of Division 20M, Matthew Nguyen, the Lieutenant Governor of Division 38, Cedar Teterick, the Lieutenant Governor of Division 62, Kim Tu, Lieutenant Governor of Division 66, and Harleen Brar, the Lieutenant Governor of Division 70. Together, the PNWOF Committee strives to promote and support high-impact service throughout all key clubs in the Pacific Northwest. Throughout the webinar, if you have any questions, please write them down so that they can be addressed during our open floor Q&A at the end of the program. Thank you. I will now let Abby and Matthew tell a little bit more about what the PNWOF is.
Thanks, Haley. It's always great to see dedicated servant leaders wanting to learn more about the grant. The Pacific Northwest Opportunities Fund, also called the PNWOF for short, is an opportunity for dues-paid clubs in the Pacific Northwest District to receive funding for a high-impact service project that will directly benefit their communities or the district project Help End Hunger. In the past, we've had successful service projects dedicated to providing wildlife relief, emergency shelter support to victims of domestic violence, essential supplies to underprivileged families, and more. The PNWOF is an opportunity for your club to take the lead in providing sustainable, high-impact service to your local community.
Hey, Abby, that sounds so cool. How can my club get selected for the PNWOF?
That's a great question, Matthew. The PNWOF is an application-based grant. You can apply for the PNWOF through our digital application, which can be found on our website, pnwkeyclub.org, when it opens on September 1st. If selected, the grant will support up to 2/3 of the cost of your service project and award anywhere from $100 to $1,000.
The application will stay open for 2 months and close on October 31st, giving all of your time to extensively plan your project. I know I'm personally excited to tell all my clubs to apply. I will now pass it off to Haley and Cedar to talk a little more about planning your project.
Thanks, Matthew. Before you decide to apply for the PNWOF, it's important for you and your club to decide whether the PNWOF is right for you. Remember, this isn't an independent service project. To be successful, you'll need to collaborate with several officers and members of your club, as well as have the support of your advisors and sponsoring Kiwanis Club. Right, Cedar?
Right. Planning and executing a project takes a lot of teamwork. As you plan your project and apply for the PNWOF, you'll find yourself more successful when all hands are on deck.
As it is with all good projects, your team will need to start with the cause. Identify what your community needs. Does your community need essential supplies or natural disaster relief? Are there families in your area that lack access to nutritious meals in the winter months? Who does your heart go out to, and who do you want to help? These are all starting questions that you can ask yourself when deciding on a cause for your project.
Don't be scared to think outside the box when coming up with ideas. While we've had incredibly successful projects that have lasted as traditions in the PNW, like Winter Blitz at Clackamas High School, we've also had successful projects directed at more time-specific needs. For example, Ashland High School's Wildfire Relief Project specifically targeted families who had lost their homes to the 2020 Alameda Forest Fire and provided necessities to keep them warm through the winter. South Bend High School's School Supply Drive is also an example of how key clubbers took the initiative to help families affected by reduced income and school district budgeting during COVID-19.
Other examples of creative service last year included mask making projects, such as the one hosted by Astoria High School Key Club and Marysville Getchell High School's Necessity Drive for victims of domestic abuse in Snohomish County. Similar to South Bend High School's supply drive, both of these projects were incredibly relevant to the time of the pandemic, with personal protective equipment being in high demand and victims of domestic violence needing more support than ever during stay-at-home orders. We hope these high-impact projects serve as examples and inspirations for you and your clubs as you begin planning.
Now that you've had a chance to get inspired for your own project, let's get back to determining whether the PNWOF is right for you. Start off by having a discussion with your officers about the project you want to host. Try asking yourself some of these questions to determine whether applying for the grant is a good fit for you. Does your project affect your club community or distribute to the district project? Is this project high impact and sustainable? Are you willing to work with others to execute this project? Is your club willing to plan extensively to execute this project? Is your club willing to fundraise for this project? And can this project be completed by March 31st, 2022?
If your answer to all these questions is yes, then the PNWOF is a great fit for your club's project. If the answer to any of these questions is no, and you still intend to apply for the grant, you may want to rethink aspects of your project to align with the PNWOF's mission. I'll now pass it back to Abby and Matthew to tell you more about the application.
Thanks, Haley. The amazing thing about the PNWOF grant is that it's unique to our district. You can find the application on the PNW Key Club website at pnwkeyclub.org when it opens on September 1st. The digital application is hosted through Google Forms, which provides all applicants a straightforward and user-friendly experience. The PNWOF application is split into 4 straightforward sections: applicant and contact information, project information and project timeline, budget and materials, as well as the signatures and agreement contract section. It's important that you take your time on all of these sections, specifically project information, timeline, budget, and materials, so that committee has the opportunity to get a comprehensive idea of your project and how well it can be executed.
While Google Form will save your work if you're logged in using a Gmail account, this feature isn't always reliable. It's still recommended that you complete the application using a separate Google or Word document to keep your work saved and secure. The parts of the application we discussed today will be made available on the PNW Key Club website so that you can prepare ahead of time to have all of your materials ready for when the application goes live.
Also remember to proofread your responses and verify any names, phone numbers, and email addresses for accuracy. If any of this information is incorrect, it could disqualify your application.
Since section 1 is pretty straightforward, let's take a closer look at section 2. This section covers the basic information of your project: who you seek to benefit, what your project is, when, where, and how it will take place, and why you're seeking the grant. As a reminder, all projects must be completed by March 31st, 2022, and the grant is meant to cover at most 2/3 of the cost of completing your project.
We hope that while you take the time to answer these questions, you and your club have the opportunity to start some meaningful conversations about your project and who it will serve. Diving deeper into these questions: who, what, when, where, and why will you allow you to work through any existing obstacles ahead of time?
This is also a good opportunity to consider the sustainability of your project, its impact, and relay what you're thinking to us. It's important that you put in as much detail as possible so that we can get on the same page as you about your project. Remember, when you and your club know this project extensively, this application is the only window for the PNWOF committee to understand your project. So be thorough. The example shown on screen here is based off a real successful grant submission. You'll see that through the submission though the submission is concise, it's easy to identify who the project benefits, why the grant is needed, and what the project does.
The next example is also a real example from Marysville-Getchell High School's Necessity Drive PNWOF application. Marysville-Getchell High School is my home club, and I worked on this application last year as a member of our club's officer board. Notice how this application specifically tells us about the steps the club has already taken to execute this project. Put simply, we want to ensure that you've already taken steps to begin planning this project. We don't want you to run into a situation where you've been selected to receive the grant, but run into roadblocks such as school disapproval or lack of community or adult support. That results in an unsuccessful project. This would not only be disheartening money to complete a successful project. Here, the club has already confirmed logistics of this project with their advisors, school, sponsoring Kiwanis Club, and the shelter they plan to donate to. In other words, all parties involved are already well informed of the project, how it has been planned, and are ready to participate. Receiving the grant is the last step they need to carry out the project.
Section 3 will likely be the most time-consuming section. Be prepared to spend anywhere from several hours to several days completing this section in its entirety. Throughout this section, we value specificity. Provide as many dates and exact numbers as possible so that we can get a detailed and complete picture of how this project will unfold and be completed. The first question of this section asks for your timeline of tasks. For example, this response from a supply drive lists the dates of supply collection during school and in front of the club's local grocery stores. A different project might list planned purchase dates, collection dates, meeting dates, etc. For the purpose of planning an extensive timeline for the project, a sample we've drafted for a mock project is displayed on your screen to the right.
The next question is fairly self-explanatory, but can be time-consuming. We want to see an itemized list of materials that will be purchased as well as any other costs for your project. Include an item description, quantity, and cost, and note that a cost is estimated if you can't find an exact number. All costs should be listed in US dollar pricing, and this itemized list should be accurate and detailed as possible. Your attention to detail during this section is important and tells us a lot about the execution of your project as a whole. If you're already working with a well thought out comprehensive project, this section, while tedious, should be easy to complete. The internet will be your best friend when doing your research for this section, and using a spreadsheet application such as Google Sheets or Excel will make it easier for you to accurately account for your expenses and keep everything organized.
You'll need to accurately fill out this section to successfully complete the next question, which is the total amount requested in US dollars. Once again, the grant will cover up to 2/3 of the cost of your project max. While we encourage you to request what is necessary, please don't overshoot. We want to award grants to as many clubs as possible, so it's important for all parties to be reasonable when applying. If you have any additional comments concerning your budget for the project, as this example club has had, please include them in the additional comments section. You'll see that through the additional comments section, they clarified that sales tax and shipping and handling fees would push their estimated costs higher than what was accounted for, hence the increased requested amount.
This is also where we want to hear about how you will be covering the remaining 1/3 cost of your project. If a fundraiser is necessary, please describe it in detail. If not, the next question asks for other resources, whether that is something you pull from your club's existing treasury, materials you borrow from the school, or anything else that is necessary to include. Once again, while you know your school, club, and project well, the PNWOF Committee doesn't. It's important that you provide enough context for us when describing these aspects of your project so that we can get a complete picture of what you will do.
The final section is for signatures and the agreement contract. This step is self-explanatory, but make sure you've discussed the project and the application in depth with the people that will be signing. Though these are digital signatures, forgery is still illegal, and failure to receive signatures will result in denial of the grant and may be subject to future consequences. And with that, you're done. I will now pass it back to Haley to tell you about where you can learn more about PNWOF in the future.
Thanks, Matthew. Can we please get some spirit in the chat for our committee members? So proud of you guys. So before I open the floor for questions, I would like to invite you all to our next webinar. If you're interested in learning more about past PNWOF recipients, their projects, and what made them successful, then come join us at the Fall PNWOF Webinar on September 22nd from 7 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're looking forward to seeing you all there. I will now open the floor for any questions. Please type your questions in the chat. Feel free to address them to a panelist if you have a question for anyone specific. So the first question I'm getting is, it says, is there a specific type of project the PNWOF committee is more likely to fund? Abby, would you like to take this one?
Yeah, so basically, if there is a specific type of project the PNWOF committee is more likely to fund, any project that directly impacts your local community or the district project.
Thank you. So here's another one. It says, what are some ways to reach out to local organizations to work with? Cedar, do you want to answer this one?
Yeah, 1 second. The best way to reach out to organizations is through email, phone, or social media. Additionally, organizations will have ways to contact them on their website. If you're planning on contacting an organization, make sure to check how legit they are.
Thank you. Here's another one. It says, how many grants do we give out a year? There's no set number on grants we give out a year. We would like to give out as many as possible, but it really just depends on how many applicants we get and the amount of money that is requested. Let's see.
Once again, this is another reason why it's incredibly important for you to do your accounting accurately and seriously so that you don't overshoot your costs. If you and other clubs begin to overshoot your costs for the PNWOF, then it limits our ability to give out grants to other clubs as well. So please make sure that your accounting and your budgeting is accurate and reasonable. Thank you.
Well said, Alice. Another question we have is, how can the PNWOF ultimately benefit my home club? Abby, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so basically, PNWOF sponsored events can increase membership growth, create a stronger connection with your club's Kiwanians, and most importantly, benefit your entire community.
Thank you. Here's another one. It says, where is the application located? Cedar, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so the application is going to be on the PNW website, and it's going to be released on September 1st. So look out for it there.
Yes. You can also find it on the PNW Instagram page under our link tree. Let's see. Alrighty. A couple more questions. When and how do we receive the money? Matthew, do you want to answer this one?
Yeah, sure. The faculty advisor will receive a check in November that will be sent to the school's mailing address.
Thank you. Let's see, a couple more questions are coming in. This one is a really great one. It says, what is one advice you would give about creating a well-written PNWOF submission? Abby, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so one advice given for a well-written PNWOF submission is that you should think deeply about why, how, and what you would use the PNWOF for. Make sure that your response can clearly convey these subjects and have another person check it over to see if they can tell what your message is. Also, write your response on a separate document so it won't be lost if your application crashes.
Thank you. This is also another great question, and they ask, what do I do when I can't reach my Kiwanis or faculty advisor? Matthew, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so if you can't contact your Kiwanis or faculty advisor, then contact your LTG and they'll find a way to reach out to them with their area administrator.
Thank you. I'll take this one. This question asks, what are effective ways to communicate your plans on how you would use the PNWOF? Effective ways to communicate your plans on how you would use the PNWOF is to make sure to think detailed and elaborate on your response. Make sure that everyone who is involved with this project is informed about why you are applying for the PNWOF. This includes your club members, your advisors, and staff members at your school. This is to prevent any miscommunication and confusion for anyone in the future. This question asks, what happens if all the grant money is not used? Abby, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so basically all funds would be returned to the district.
Thank you. Here's another great one. Can multiple clubs work on a joint project but submit a single PNWOF application? I will get back to you on that. If you want to DM me your email address, I will be sure to respond to you before tonight is over, because that's a really, really good question. Okay, here's another one. Does the time you submit your application affect your chance of receiving a grant at all, like October 10th versus October 30th? Matthew, do you want to take this one?
Submission times do not affect like your chances of getting the grant.
Correct, thank you. What type of follow-up is required after receiving a grant? Do recipients need to be sent or photos of the project in action? So with that, there is after actions reports that need to be completed 30 days after the project is completed. We would like to have pictures sent to us just so we can feature them on the webpage and everything. And photos of your grant really, not your grant, photos of your project really do just help us elaborate to the district what all you have done, and we can really highlight the amazing things you've been able to do. I'm not seeing any more questions. Oh, here's one. Oh, that's not a question, but Abby does make a really great statement. Abby, do you want to share that with everyone just in case they can't read it?
Yeah, so basically in the chat, I said, with my experience with the PNWOF, I had other organizations at my school wanting to participate, and they did help donate towards our drive.
Hi, it looks like Abby froze there, so I'm just going to jump in for her and read her comment. She did say that she had other organizations at her school wanting to participate, and they did help donate towards the drive, but the funds that were received for the PNWOF were exclusively used by her Key Club and not by other organizations.
Yeah, am I all good?
Yeah, you're all good now.
Right. To add on to that, so I basically had my school's ASB and NHS and a lot of all like the different organizations super interested and hands-on with the project. So basically they did help donate and spread the word, but they didn't receive any of the funds, and it was exclusively used by our Key Club.
Thank you. That really does help elaborate on a lot of other things too. This question says, does it matter if the event I want to plan is a tradition that is already in place, or if you're trying to start something new? Typically speaking, it doesn't matter what type of event it is. The event does have to ultimately benefit your community as a whole, or it has to benefit the district project as well, which is ending hunger. But if your clubs do have projects in place that have been done and are traditions, such as Winter Blitz at Clackamas High School, you're more than encouraged to keep doing those, or you are also more than encouraged to step outside of the box and try something new. This question says, can you explain the district project? Alice, would you like to answer this question?
Sure. So the district project is one high impact service initiative that is chosen by the governor, which is myself this year, every year. In the past 3 years, we've had the Thirst Project be our district project. And this year we are having Help End Hunger, which is an internal initiative, be our district project. Help End Hunger is a domestic project, which means that it benefits local communities throughout the Pacific Northwest. And like the name suggests, targets hunger and food insecurity throughout our area. We chose this project specifically because we wanted to target communities that were impacted disproportionately by COVID-19, and that shows its impacts in the highest ways in the form of food insecurity and hunger, with low-income individuals and individuals that have lost their sources of income and their jobs, and also food supply being lower as a result of COVID-19 has made food insecurity a much more prevalent issue throughout the Pacific Northwest. And so we wanted to bring this project back, and we wanted to go ahead and give back to our communities in the PNW. If you're interested in doing a PNWOF project for Help End Hunger, our district project, you can read more about the district project on the PNW Key Club website under projects. You can click on Help End Hunger, and there's a lot of stats and information there that our district project committee has curated for you guys. I would say hosting food drives, packing parties, distribution events of resource packages are always really, really great projects that you can do, and something that you could develop into a project that is worth receiving a grant. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to myself at governor@pnwkeyclub.org, or if you have anything that is very specific to the district project, feel free to reach out to our convention, to our district project chair, Claire Sarnowski at project@pnwkeyclub.org.
Thank you, Alice. That's very, very helpful. So this question asks, where does the money come from and who is sponsoring our projects? So the money for the grants do come from your dues that you pay each year. And then the PNW district is sponsoring your projects.
If you're looking for a further breakdown of where funds for the PNWOF come from, you can also take a look at the 2021 to 2023 strategic plan, where we've outlined a few other things for reaching further financial sustainability. You'll see that all of the fundraising events that we do on behalf of the district, any donations that you put in towards the district, if you have PNW Key Club selected as your preferred charity on Amazon Smile, stuff like that, that is all money that goes towards the PNWOF and as such right back to you.
Thank you, Alice. So another question asked is, when will we be notified if we receive the grant? Winners of the grant will be notified sometime in November after the PNWOF committee has had time to thoroughly go over each application individually. Here's a few more questions. Does the club size determine the amount of money received? No, that is a great question. The amount of money received is usually, you will request an amount, but it has to be 2/3. It cannot be over 2/3, but the size of your club does not determine the amount you will be able to receive. This question asks, how do I find organizations in my area to partner up? Specifically finding organizations dedicated towards a specific cause. A great way to start is kind of looking at what organizations are in your area. So if you have a Builders Club or a Kiwanis Club or an Action Club or a Lions Club, those are typically organizations you would want to kind of get together with to try and think of a successful project. You can also look at organizations' cause online, look at their websites and what they have to offer, and see if that's something that you would like to kind of just interfere yourself with. Do we have to do virtual events or can we begin in-person events? That's a great question. It really does depend on your geographical area. If you're able to do in-person events, you're more than welcome to, but if you have people that do not feel comfortable doing in-person events, a virtual event is just as well of an option. Do consider, though, social distancing and COVID-19 guidelines. This question says, if we request $300, for example, will we either get $300 or none? or is there a chance we would get more or less money than that? It depends on how much your total project is going to cost. So if your total project were to cost $900 and you requested $300, you would more than likely get the $300 if we determine that your grant will be accepted. It doesn't really, I don't think it will matter if you will get more or less money than that. There might be a slight chance, but probably no chances at all. Are there any types of projects the PNWOF grant isn't allowed to / can't fund? Any projects that do not benefit your community or does not benefit the district project, we will not fund.
Just as a clarification on that one, anything that doesn't directly serve your communities is going to be the criteria for whether we decide for whether you are selected for the grant or not. We do get lots of applicants, so we do try and choose the highest impact projects that we have, something that can be done with like only the PNWOF exclusively or something like that. And so when the PNWOF plays a keystone in executing your high impact service project, that is when the committee determines that this is a project worth giving the grant to. For example, purchasing supplies that are directly donated to a shelter or to a food bank or to a school are all direct service impacts. However, purchasing something such as stickers or bracelets that you will then sell to your communities as a source of fundraising is not a direct service impact. It is, it does have an impact, but it is not the direct service that we are looking for from the PNWOF. So please put this in consideration when you are planning your projects and when you are applying for the grant.
Thank you, Alice, for elaborating more. That was actually the end of the question. So I would just like to thank you all for being here so much. And thank you all for all the wonderful questions and all of your interest. If we weren't able to answer your question, or please feel free to reach out to me at treasure@pnwkeyclub.org or visit the PNW Key Club website at www.pnwkeyclub.org/PNWOF. For more information about the grant, if you're interested in receiving regular updates from the PNW Key Club, please subscribe to our bi-weekly updates on the PNW Key Club website and follow us on Instagram at PNW Key Club. Thank you everyone for attending, and we're looking forward to seeing you at Key Club Days in September. Bye.